illegal immigration and its associated risks in Durban. To the National Department of Home Affairs, the Regional Office of the Department of Home Affairs. This memorandum is an urgent call for action on illegal immigration and its associated risks in Durban. To the National Department of Home Affairs, the Regional Office of the Department of Home Affairs, the KwaZulu-Natal Office of the Premier, the South African Police Services, eThekwini Municipality, the National Prosecuting Authority. This memorandum serves to express our deep concern and dismay occasioned by the high volume of illegal immigrants in South Africa and the significant negative impact it has on the skyrocketing levels of unemployment, safety, security, and socio-economic well-being of our communities. The influx of undocumented immigrants has led to serious challenges, such as an increase in identity theft, fraud, human trafficking, illicit drug trade, murder, extortion, and various kinds of organized criminal activities. These issues undermine the rule of law. They disrupt our economy and place the lives of South African citizens at risk. In 1996, the Constitutional Assembly adopted the Constitution of the Republic of South Africa, Act number 108 of 1996. The Constitution then became the supreme law of our country. The preamble of our Constitution recognizes the fact that the Constitution must lay a foundation for a democratic and open society in which government is based on the will of people, and every citizen is equally protected by law. The Constitution recognizes the importance of improving the quality of life of all citizens and freeing the potential of each citizen, a dream deferred for which we must fight tirelessly. Section 3 of the Constitution makes provisions for the rights of citizens and becomes an empowering provision for the acquisition, loss, and restoration of citizenship, and it does not make provision for illegal immigrants. The Immigration Act defines an illegal foreigner as a foreigner who is in the Republic in contravention of this Act. Section 32 of the Act states that any illegal foreigner shall depart unless authorized by the Department to remain in the Republic pending his or her application for a status. It does not make provision for criminal elements. It further states that any illegal foreigner shall be deported. The adoption of the Constitution was as a result of a protracted negotiations which were entered into in a quest to create a democratic South Africa, where all South African citizens and those who live in the country live in peace and harmony. In the Constitution, the Bill of Rights was encapsulated, which gives citizens rights that cannot be unjustly taken away from them. These include the right to freedom of association, the right to security, the right to a well-functioning and sustainable healthcare system, the right to vote, the right to life, and the right to freedom of speech. Approximately 281 million people, accounting for 3.6% of the world's population, live outside their country of origin. The United Nations Human Rights Commission principles and the guidelines is focused on protecting the human rights and the vulnerable refugees in the need of protection in terms of the international human rights framework. The United Nations Human Rights Commission recognizes the rights of the individual nations to pass legislation to control immigration, and that must be done without the violation of human rights. Recognizing the history of our country, our painful past, the suffering of indigenous people of our land, the millions of our people who were dispossessed of their land, provided with inferior education, deprived of the right to healthcare and proper spatial development. We hasten to mention that thousands of people were killed in the course of fighting for liberation of her people and creation of a stable, peaceful, and democratic South Africa, which was realized in 1994. The citizens of our country have, over the years, appreciated the responsibility they have in shaping the policies of our country and to ensure that it has active citizenry whose sole agenda is to create society that is devoid of crime, corruption, and the violation of human rights. Parliament took a conscious decision in 2002 to promulgate the Immigration Act 13 of 2002, aimed at regulating and controlling the immigration exercise undertaken in our country. And the March in March movement calls upon the government to decisively implement the provisions of the said Act in respect of the issue at hand. We are mindful that South Africa plays a critical role in the South African development community, the SADC region in the African continent in general, particularly in negotiating for peace and ensuring that the citizens of the continent are protected from atrocities and genocide. We acknowledge that while playing that responsibility, South Africa opened its doors to the people who are suffering in their countries for reasons such as political instability, economic crisis, civil war. Some may be entering our country to look for jobs, and some may be joining our country for business purposes. It is our respectful view that our country and that of the global village must be read and be considered in context. South Africa is a sovereign state with laws that must be complied with and respected. The Immigration Act is quite instructive in that any citizen of the world that wishes to enter our country must do so in compliance with the law, and no one is allowed in our country illegally. Section 32 emphatically states that illegal immigrants must be deported. The said Act further outlines a number of persons that are not desirable to be in our country, amongst those people who want to be in our country to engage in and or advocate for violence and acts of barbarism. It is common cause that thousands of our people are robbed of their properties every day. Buildings are illegally occupied, and many of our young women and children are abducted and groomed to be utilized as sexual slaves, amongst other things. Many of these criminal activities in our country are traced back to illegal immigrants, yet the issue is not resolved, and we do not see any visible progress on what the government is doing and or intends to do to resolve these issues, such as the alarming levels of crimes committed by illegal immigrants, their use and selling of drugs, and other criminal activities affecting our communities. The increase on cases of extortion inflicted to our innocent South Africans by illegal immigrants who are taking the little that our forefathers left for us because no one cares to stop the atrocities is shocking, it's alarming and flabbergasting. Hundreds of jobs, in particular in sectors and or industries such as the security industries, are given to illegal immigrants who do not have qualifications as security officers as per the requirements of the Private Security Industry Regulatory Authority, abbreviated as CIRA, and they are being paid stipends, wages or salaries that are below the minimum wage prescribed by the South African National Minimum Wage Act number 9 of 2018. This results in thousands of qualified South Africans who have the requisite qualifications within the security industries losing their jobs and not being employed, and therefore stuck in poverty that South Africans continue to be exposed to more than 30 years of democracy was realized. Thousands of illegal immigrants enter our country and accept employment as domestic workers, replacing the South African citizens who cannot accept to be paid a wage below the minimum wage. As a result, the unemployment rate does not decrease. It is common cause that a high level of unemployment affects our economy, and many people go to bed without food. More so, crimes are perpetrated, and the security of our country and stability is at risk. Illegal foreigners have taken over the township economy. More than 70% of the tuck shops in our townships are now owned by illegal immigrants who sell toxic foods to our people, and we cannot keep quiet anymore. Illegal immigrants have been involved in most of the cash in transit heists over the past few months. If we do not see this as a crisis, South Africa will wake up in a hostile state over the next 5 years. In the past few months, we woke to a realization that one illegal immigrant is selling and renting low houses at the government that the government should be allocating to poor and downtrodden people of our country. It remains an untold truth that hundreds of people in our country cannot access jobs in the hospitality industry because thousands of these jobs are taken by illegal immigrants who are willing to take any remuneration, even if it's below the prescribed rates. But beyond that, the said illegal immigrants are using these restaurants not only to work, but to sell drugs and are therefore killing our society. The hairdressing industry, the beauty salons, have been a hub of illegal immigrants who are not only depriving South Africans of jobs, but are using these establishments to sell drugs. The hair industry, the beauty salons, has become a hub of illegal immigrants who are not only depriving South Africans of jobs, but are using these establishments to sell drugs and to traffic our sisters to the country and use them as sexual slaves. And it is something we as the members of the society have taken a conscious decision to stand up against. Not